Okay, we're ready for chapter 5 of Clementine and the Family Meeting. And remember that Clementine ran inside from recess, and you're not supposed to do that unless it's an absolute emergency. So there she is talking to her teacher. He's at his desk, Mr. DeMotts. "It's an emergency," I said to Mr. DeMotts, who was correcting papers at his desk. "It's unfair our rat got lost, and it's unfair I have to do a whole new report, and it's unfair I have to have Waylon for a partner." Mr. DeMotts leaned back in his chair. "I'm hearing the word unfair a lot, Clementine." "That's because the whole world is so unfair," I said. "You might as well call it the Science Unfair Project." "What exactly is so unfair?" "Everything." "Everything?" I nodded. "Everything? Well, what is the biggest unfair thing about it?" "That nobody asked us. They just decided." "We've talked about this. It's the teacher's job to teach and the student's job to learn. Both of you have to decide how best to do that." "But what if we don't need another brother or a sister? What if our family is perfect the way it is?" I clapped my hands over my mouth when I realized what I had said, but Mr. DeMotts didn't seem surprised that we weren't talking about science fairs anymore. He just looked at me for a long while, and then he said, "Oh." "Right," I said. "Oh, my parents should have asked my brother and me." "Well, I think that's not how it usually goes. Parents decide those things." "But they didn't tell us." Mr. DeMotts nodded. "Parents often don't. Not for a while. They choose their timing." I suddenly felt like I was going to cry if I said one more word, so I made my mouth into a ruler line. Mr. DeMotts tipped his head. He looked as if he was trying to decide something. "You know, Clementine," he said after a while, "this is something we have in common." I was so surprised I forgot to not talk. "Really? Your parents are having another baby too?" He laughed. "Oh, no. Well, at least I don't think so. No. I'm sure they're not. What I meant was that my wife and I are expecting a baby in just a few months." "What?" Some of my Clementine sections were so excited. Mr. DeMotts was also bringing things in from home. His collection of Hawaiian shirts, his baseball cards, Zippy and Bump the hamsters were actually his. Maybe he'd bring his baby in too and pass it around. But some of my Clementine sections were mad too. "How come you didn't tell us?" I asked. "Well, like I said, when to tell and who to tell, it's a private decision for the parents." "But that's not fair. You know stuff about us." My teacher pointed to a sign we'd put up at the beginning of school. "Fair doesn't mean everyone gets the same thing. Fair means everyone gets what they need." "Do you remember how that works?" he asked. "I know," I said. "It means I get to stand up and wiggle around if I need to. It means Kyla gets to drink some orange juice when it's not even snack time." "That's exactly right. And knowing what's going on in your lives helps me teach you." "Well, don't you think it would help us to learn if we knew what was going on in your life?" Mr. DeMotts was quiet for a minute as he thought about it. "You know, Clementine," he said at last, "you just might have a point. I'm going to have to think about it, though. For now, I'd appreciate it if you kept what I told you between us. That's our private signal." "Got it," I said. "Private. Me too. I'd appreciate it if you kept what I told you about my family." I made the secret signal. Private too. Mr. DeMotts shook my hand, and then I went back to recess. I was surprised I didn't have to duck when I went through the door because I was sure I'd grown about 3 feet taller. That afternoon, when the 2:15 bell rang, I hurried to the science room again because one good thing had happened during the day. I had remembered where my hat was. I thought really hard about it, and suddenly I saw it like a picture in my brain, tossed on the bookshelf in the science room yesterday afternoon. This means I have developed a photographic memory, which is really good news if I ever get on a game show. I'm going to win every prize they have. I have to pull out the bookshelf, I told Mrs. Resnick as I skidded in. I left my hat here yesterday and it must have fallen down behind. Mrs. Resnick helped me slide the bookshelf away from the wall. No hat. Just an empty floor. But it was there! I know it was! I said. But okay, fine. Now maybe I wasn't so sure. Well, hats don't get up and walk away by themselves, Mrs. Resnick said. Which I knew, and which reminded me. He didn't come back, did he? Your rat? Said Mrs. Resnick. No, sorry. I think we're going to have to accept that he's made an escape. I looked around the room. He could have gotten out under the door or through the heating ducts or even in someone's backpack. I guess you're right, I said. Do you think he'll be okay? Here's a picture of Clementine and Mrs. Resnick when they moved the bookcase. But Clementine's hat wasn't on the floor behind the bookcase. What do you think happened to her hat? Mrs. Resnick nodded as if she was sure of it. Oh, yes, rats are very smart, very adaptable. He's probably happily setting up a new home somewhere in the building. What about our project? I know you and Waylon put a lot of work into your training, and I remember you wrote an excellent report. But we'll have to find something else for you to do now. I'll think about it and have an answer for you on Friday. When I got home, I found my mother lying on the floor in the living room with my brother lying next to her. I'm doing my pregnant lady exercises, she told me. Your brother's keeping me company. I dropped my backpack onto a chair and I got down beside them. I remember this, I said, from when you were having potato. I used to lie down with you and talk to him inside your stomach. I showed my brother what I meant, and he got the idea right away. He put his mouth on our mother's shirt and yelled for the baby to come out and play. Mom's belly isn't very big, so I don't think the baby's ready to come out and play yet. My mother laughed. It's a little early for that, she explained. Then she sat up. Would you like to see a picture of what the baby looks like right now? I said nope, but she reached over to the coffee table and picked up a booklet anyway. She thumbed through a couple of pages and then held it out. Your brother or sister is about 5 inches long, she said. My brother looked at the picture and then threw his head back and laughed as if she had told him the funniest joke in the world. I took the booklet for a closer look. It showed a little pink thing, part human, part fish, part... It looks like 18, I said. It looks like a little rat now. Except 18 is cute. I looked at the picture again. It wasn't a rat. It was a real baby. And that gave me the most astounding idea I'd ever had in my life. Hey, Mom, this booklet sure is science-y, right? Science-y? Well, I guess. Mom, when can you have this baby? Like in 2 weeks? Then you could be my science project. My mom laughed really hard. Oh, no, Clementine. Oh, babies take a long time to grow, and they pick their timing. This baby will be here sometime in early July, but it will keep its birthday a big surprise. I sighed. What I had said yesterday was right. This baby sure wasn't going to help with any of my problems. So what Clementine and Potato got to see was one of the very first sonogram pictures of their new baby brother or sister. And when the baby's that little inside the mommy's tummy, it doesn't really look like much. Done with chapter 5.